Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 3 is out, and there's a heap to talk about, so let's begin. At the Wall, Jon Snow rises from the dead, and people think he's the prince that was promised, or Azor Ahai reborn, a messianic figure prophesied to save the world from darkness. Basically, kind of a Game of Thrones Jesus, and Jon is pretty Jesus-y, isn't he? A righteous man betrayed by his friends, killed before a cross, risen from the dead, great hair, sweet abs. It's not super clear what being this savior means, but it seems to involve fighting the White Walkers and their whites. Also, Melisandre asks Jon where he went and what he saw when he was dead, and Jon says nothing. Mel has a similar exchange with Beric Dondarrion when he's resurrected 3 seasons ago. Maybe part of why Melisandre is so interested in death is that she herself has been fleeing death for apparently several centuries. Maybe she fears death, and that's why she asks about it so intently. Anyway, the similarity between Beric and Jon suggests that their resurrections work by the same kind of magic. But when Beric is resurrected, he changes, loses bits of his memories and identity. When Jon comes back, all it takes is one of Davos's legendary pep talks and he seems about the same as he ever was. So, is Jon truly unchanged by death? Or will we see new sides to his character this season? Then we're on a ship sailing south. We see Gilly being cute and Sam being not so cute. The plan is for Sam to join the Maesters at the Citadel in Old Town, which is like a sort of a university where Sam can learn the knowledge he needs to help the Watch. Maybe he'll find some info on White Walkers. But since the Citadel doesn't accept women, Sam will be dropping Gilly and the baby off at Horn Hill with Sam's family. He mentions his mother Melessa, who is kind, and his sister Tala, who is lovely, and his father Randall, who is neither. As Sam explained in Season 1, Randall was horrible to Sam growing up, cursing, caning, slapping, and starving him to try to toughen him up into the strong, brave son he wanted, instead of the soft, cowardly son he got. Eventually, Randall threatened to kill Sam unless he gave up his name and inheritance, which is how Sam ended up joining the Watch. And now Sam is coming home, bringing Gilly and a baby who they're saying is Sam's when it's actually Craster's. Mance's in the books because there's a baby swap plot going on, but the point is that this is going to be like an epically awkward meet the parents type situation, except that De Niro is a battle-hardened war veteran, Ben Stiller is a fat watchman who killed an ice monster, and his girlfriend is a wildling with an incest baby, so basically this is gonna go off. On another note, in the show, Maester Aemon died last season at the Wall, but in the books, Maester Aemon comes along with Sam and Gilly on this voyage, and he dies on board this ship. There's this beautiful, moving scene with Aemon crying in the rain, remembering his youth, depicted here by artist Kei Huang. See the link in the description for more of his art. Then beyond the Wall, Bran has a vision of the Tower of Joy. This event happened about 20 years ago, at the time of Robert's Rebellion, the war where Robert Baratheon took over Westeros from the Mad King Aerys Targaryen, after the Mad King's son, Prince Rhaegar, ran off with Ned Stark's sister, Lyanna, who we saw as a child last episode. At this point in the war, both the Mad King and Prince Rhaegar have been killed, so Ned Stark and a group of his men, including Meera and Jojen's father, Howland Reed, have come looking for Lyanna at the Tower of Joy. They find the tower guarded by 3 Kingsguard, 2 Kingsguard in the show, including the legendary swordsman Arthur Dayne. They talk about the war, the dialogue is kinda cooler in the books, and then they fight, with Dayne pretty much kicking all their asses. He would have killed Ned too if Howland hadn't stabbed him in the back at the last moment so that Ned could finish Dayne off. It's upsetting for Bran to see his father act in this dishonourable way. Ned had this seemingly untouchable reputation of honour and honesty, but if he didn't tell the whole truth about what happened with Dayne, what else might he have hidden? It's also interesting to see Howland wounded. Maybe that's related to why he hasn't turned up yet in the series, because he is alive, at least in the books. He's the last living survivor of the Tower of Joy, and people keep saying how great he is, but we still haven't seen him. Maybe he was disabled by this wound somehow and has to stay at home? Either way, we'll hopefully see more of him soon. There are lots of cool theories about him. Anyway, after the fight, we start getting to the important bit. Ned hears screaming from the tower, which is presumably Lyanna because that's who he came looking for, but we don't know what's up. Like, is she in pain? Is she dying? Is she alone up there? Just as we're about to find out, the Raven pulls Bran out of the vision. So it looks like we'll have to wait a couple more episodes to see what happened in the tower, but there is a huge old theory about this. Check out the R+L=J video for details. But another thing we learn here is that Bran can affect the past through his visions. He calls out to Ned, and Ned hears him. This could support the idea that Willis became Hodor when Bran somehow messed with his mind in one of these visions. Like, maybe Bran says Hodor to young Willis, and that's where the name Hodor originally comes from, like some kinda timey-wimey Back to the Future circular paradox type shit. And the point of this for Bran's character could be to show him the terrible potential of his power, to give him guilt and the restraint that Bloodraven is trying to teach him. At the end of the scene, Bran asks Bloodraven what the point of all this training is, and he vaguely but dramatically says, to learn everything. Daenerys Targaryen arrives at Vaes Dothrak, the sacred city of the Dothraki, and she's actually been here before, way back in Season 1. It's where she eats that horse heart. She meets the Dosh Khaleen, the widows of dead Khals, who strip her and demean her and tell her that she may or may not be made to join their happy little retirement village, depending on the results of a big meeting of all the Dothraki Khalasars together. That might sound bad for Dany, but having all the Dothraki in one place with Dany's dragon on the way might actually be an opportunity to take control of a massive Dothraki army. This will probably involve some Dothraki getting barbecued, and this Dosh Khaleen woman is probably first on Dany's list. In Meereen, Varys questions Vala, the woman we saw working with the Sons of the Harpy last season. Varys seems to play nice, offering silver and passage to Pentos in return for information on the Harpy. He says he doesn't torture and wouldn't hurt a child, but is this really how Varys operates? We know he lies, manipulates, and kills. Will he really keep his promises to Vala, or will he dispose of her once he has what he wants? There's a lot of moral complexity to Varys, at least in the books. Hopefully the show will reflect some of that. Anyway, so Vala tells Varys that the Sons of the Harpy are funded by 3 cities, Astapor, Yunkai, and Volantis, which does make sense because those cities trade slaves, and Dany banned slavery. When Varys tells this to Tyrion, Missandei, and Grey Worm, there's talk of war between Meereen and these other cities. In King's Landing, we see the creepy Qyburn with Varys' spies, the children he calls little birds. In the books, these children are mute. Varys has their tongues removed so that they can't share his secrets, but here in the show, the birds say that Varys is nice and gives them sweets, like a Santa Claus with no balls. So yeah, maybe the show is turning Varys into more of a one-dimensional good guy, which would be a shame. But the fact that the little birds are included at all in the show hints that they may play some future role. In fact, that looks like them in the trailer, murdering a certain someone. For those who've read the books, that might be the scene at the end of Dance. Then Cersei rolls in with her entourage of the one-handed Kingslayer and the zombie mountain. She talks about wanting to kill people, and she mentions her plans to demand a trial by combat against the Faith, and that Robert Strong, aka the Mountain, aka Gregor Clegane, will fight for her. The question, then, is who the champion for the Faith will be. Who could possibly stand against Robert Strong? Well, there is a theory that a certain gravedigger may rise to fight in what's probably the most hyped hypothetical fight in the fandom. It'll be fucking crazy if it happens, but probably more fun if it's a surprise, so let's move on for now. Cersei and Jaime try to join the small council, but Olenna Tyrell, the Queen of Sick Burns, talks smack about Cersei's incest. Mace Tyrell dithers, Pycelle farts, and Kevin leads the council out of the room. This is the government of Westeros, and it's in a sorry bloody state. At this point, Kevin and maybe Olenna are the only people really holding things together. Then we see Tommen confront the High Sparrow, all like, I'm an angry Lannister, hear me roar, I make violent threats, just like my mum, and the High Sparrow's like, nah mate, you're not a lion, you're a kitten, now sit down and let's have a chat about Jesus. And Tommen's like, yeah, okay, let's do that. Try as he might, Tommen just isn't intimidating or cruel like his parents, he's sensitive, and the Sparrow knows exactly how to play him. Just like he undermines Cersei by exploiting her pride and body and sexuality, and undermines Jaime by showing that his physical power is useless, he controls Tommen by targeting his insecurities about his relationship with his mother and his responsibilities as king. Tommen is a kid in need of guidance, in need of a good father figure. The High Sparrow sees this and provides, carefully drawing Tommen into his own ideology and control. The High Sparrow is not just a holy man, he's a master manipulator. So what's his end goal? In Braavos, Arya gets a training montage. She uses her senses to overcome her blindness, she detects poisons by smell, she plays the lying game, and ultimately becomes a stronger person. She subtly threatens the waif and gives her a good smack in the face, so they're really setting the groundwork here for conflict between the two. Eventually, a man with Jaqen's face turns up, and for the first time this season, we see Jaqen and the waif together in the same room, showing that there are at least 2 faceless men around, not just one swapping faces. In the books, there seem to be at least 9 of them in total. Maybe that's true in the show as well. Anyway, in the end, Arya gets her sight back. The blind part of her training is over, and she's ready to go kick ass. Whose ass, we don't yet know. Then Lord Small John Umber turns up at Winterfell. He's there to join up with Ramsay, but he doesn't kneel, doesn't swear oaths, he calls Ramsay's dad a cunt and sees right through Ramsay's lies, so right away, Ramsay's rightly suspicious of this guy. Why should he trust him? Umber gives Ramsay a gift, Rickon, the youngest Stark brother who everyone forgot about, and Osha, the wildling who protected him after they split from Bran. Since everyone thinks Bran is dead, Rickon is the last known surviving male Stark, making him the rightful Lord of Winterfell, and a very valuable captive for Ramsay, especially after losing Sansa. To show that the kid really is Rickon, Umber presents the head of Shaggydog, Rickon's direwolf, which is really sad. Shaggy was there for Rickon when no one else was. He represents Rickon's anger and wildness, and he showed so much promise. In the books, there's a vision of Shaggy fighting a unicorn on Skargos. People hoped to see Rickon ride Shaggydog into battle at Winterfell. This wolf was just really metal and cool, so it's sad to see him go. But it is funny that in storytelling, a Shaggydog story is a long story that ends up being pointless or anticlimactic, so arguably, Shaggydog himself is a sort of a Shaggydog story. Unless it's not really Shaggy. Some people have pointed out that the head looks kinda small for a direwolf, so maybe it's just a normal wolf's head and the Umbers are secretly still loyal to the Starks. But this might just be wishful thinking, because in the second trailer, that is an Umber banner flying with the Bolton army. So if anyone's up to any Northern conspiracy shenanigans, it'll probably be the Manderleys, who Ramsay mentioned in the last episode. Those guys have some of the best lines in the series, so get keen for that, but in the meantime, things don't look good for Rickon and Osha. Back at the Wall, Jon Snow kills the people who killed him, a kind of revenge that not many people get to have. It's actually kind of cool that Jon hangs them, because if Jon Snow is like Jesus, these guys are like Judas, and in the Bible, Judas hangs himself, depending on which passage you read. It's probably a coincidence, but still a cool connection. Anyway, it's hard not to respect Elisha for standing up for what he believed until the very end. He just wanted to protect the Watch. And Ollie. A lot of people wanted to see Ollie dead, jokingly mostly, but still, it's hard to be happy about a dead kid, isn't it? The tragedy of all this drama on the Wall is that while these good men squabble amongst themselves, much greater threats lie to the south and the north. These are the real enemies, and right now, the Watch isn't anywhere near ready. Anyway, after killing his killers, Jon hands command to Ed and says his watch is ended. The vows of the Night's Watch say it shall not end until my death, and since Jon died, he's now seen as freed from his vows, which is kind of a bullshit technicality. Maybe this could be seen as breaking his oath, #episode title, but either way, it looks like we're finally getting what's been wanted for a long while. Jon's gonna ride south to Winterfell. So this episode isn't as massive as the last two, no resurrections, great revelations, dead kings, or destroyed houses, but there's a lot of setup here for future conflict. There's talk of war in Slaver's Bay, Dany's threatening the Dosh Colleen with a dragon on the way, a trial by combat is coming in King's Landing, and most terrifying of all, Sam's bringing his girlfriend home to his parents. Bran's getting stroppy with his teacher, Arya's getting stroppy with her teacher, the Boltons have Rickon, and Jon Snow's watch is ended. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and thank you to all patrons supporting the channel, including Sarah Cleary, Spencer Bentley, Ryan Steele, Sid Yadav, William Armstrong, Amy Cobb, Dexalius, and G. Cheers.